Clixor found himself in serious trouble. "What in the sovereign's name were you thinking, Private?" the captain bellowed. "Do you have even the faintest idea what you've done? What your foolish actions might result in?" "Sir, Clixor started. "Be quiet," thundered Captain Vorzak, saliva spraying from his mandibles. "I'm not finished reprimanding you yet." Captain Vorzak absently began grooming his antennae in the quiet, a clear indication of his stress. "If the humans suspect this was intentional, we could lose their confidence," the captain pondered. The cooperation and labor agreement between the humans and the insectoids was one of our most crucial developments in the past 6 months. We may be the mightiest beings on our world, but these humans make us look more feeble than younglings. The advancements made in just the recent couple of months, exchanging the insectoids' technology and expertise for the humans' immense strength, stamina, and capacity to operate in environments where his own species would require protective gear just to survive, let alone work, had greatly accelerated their expansion to other worlds. Once you factor in suits, provisions, fuel, and vehicles to transport insectoid resource teams, the humans were an incredibly cost-effective alternative. Realizing he hadn't spoken for a while, the captain turned to Clixor. "Explain yourself. Begin from the start." Taking a calming breath, Clixor started talking. 1 hour earlier. "In my view, these humans are overrated." "Oh, really, Private? Well, I suppose it's fortunate that your view doesn't matter at all." Whirling around so rapidly he nearly broke an antennae, Private Clixor realized his transport sergeant, Thraz, was standing behind him and had heard everything he said. "Sir, I apologize. I was just—" Thraz laughed. "At ease, Private. At ease. Though I'm guessing this is your first time working alongside humans? I'll deny it if you tell anyone. But when I first encountered them, I had the same thoughts about humans. Then I witnessed one lift most of a structure that had fallen on a family." "Sir? A building? As in, an entire building?" "Yes, Private. A building. 4 walls, windows, a roof." "That's just not possible, sir," exclaimed Clixor. "The weight alone would have snapped an insectoid in half. Even if they possessed the strength, you couldn't possibly have seen—" "Are you implying I'm a liar, Private?" Thraz's eyes hardened. Immediately backpedaling, Clixor blurted out, "No, sir. No, no, no. That's not—" "So what? If I'm not a liar, am I drunk? Am I too old to recognize what I'm seeing?" "No, sir, that's not what I'm suggesting. I promise." Clixor, worried he'd be transferred on his first day, desperately searched for a way to end this disastrous conversation, until he noticed the amusement creeping into his superior's expression. Roaring with laughter, the sergeant reassured his subordinate. "Relax, Private. If I hadn't witnessed it myself, I'd say the same thing. To be fair, it wasn't the entire building. Some of the lower walls had crumbled." The sergeant's face suddenly turned serious. "He saved that family's life. There was no time to dig them out. I could hear the little girl crying, the father comforting her. He knew his family would perish. We couldn't reach them in time. Then the human just walked over and lifted the whole thing. That family survived, and I realized, whatever our alliance with the humans costs us, it's a bargain at twice the price." "Still, though," Clixor said, "a building." Suddenly the radio crackled to life. "Sergeant, come in." Thraz grabbed the radio. "Yeah, I hear you, Private. We've just sent the second to last load back. One more, and we're done." "Yeah, I see it now. That's going to be it for this transport. It's full now. That means the last transport will haul the final load and the resource crews up to the ship." "Understood, sir. These humans are incredible. It would have taken us weeks to move this much on our own." Shuren chuckled into the radio. "Agreed, Private. I'm going to take this transport up. Can't wait to get out of these envirosuits. I'm leaving you to get this last load and our people up." "Sir?" the voice acknowledged. Boarding the transport, Thraz turned back to Clixor. "Even if they weren't as strong as they are, they can function without these blasted suits," he remarked as the door closed. 10 minutes later. "Tighten those straps," Private Moxie ordered. "I want to be on the ship before I die of old age." As he assisted in stowing the workers' gear, Clixor noticed the humans just loitering outside, waiting. Approaching Moxie, he got his attention. "What's the deal with the humans? Are they planning to live here?" he said as one sat down, seemingly at ease on the surface of a planet that his species couldn't even step foot on without an environmental survival suit. There's an issue with their transport ship. They're going to be stuck here a couple of hours while a replacement is prepared. We could offer them a ride. The human cruiser is right next to us, and the cargo hold has plenty of room left. No, Moxie said. It interferes with their grav harnesses. Newer ships are fine, but these transports are old models. I doubt the humans even realize it affects their tech somehow. Grav harness? Looking at the humans, Clixor noticed they all wore belts with a glowing device in the center. Wait, that's it? That's the secret to their strength? The sergeant was talking like they were monsters. Don't know, don't care, Moxie said. Now hurry up and secure everything. I want to leave. Hold on, exclaimed Clixor. If all the harness does is allow them to lift heavy objects, let's just help them. It's not like they're carrying anything now, right? Moxie gave an exasperated sigh. Look, if you want to ask, then ask. But in 5 minutes, we're leaving this rock with or without you. Clixor hurried over to the humans, and seeing him approach, they stood up. Heard you guys are a bit stranded. Want a lift? The lead human's eyes widened. Yeah, definitely. You have room for us? Sure, said Clixor. You'll need to stay in the cargo hold, though. The rest of the transport has air for my species. That's all right, the human said. Better than waiting here for hours. Turning to his crew, he commanded, Get your equipment, the ants are giving us a lift. Once everything was secured, the doors shut. As the engines warmed up, Clixor, who chose to stay in the hold to keep the humans company, in a suit of course, noticed one of the crew still wore her pack. You might want to take off that pack. The engines will interfere with your gravity belts, and I'm not certain how heavy that bag truly is. Suddenly, all eyes were on him. What do you mean? The female human asked with a nervous smile. Your ships have never affected our tech before, and this isn't for our bags. It's an older model of transport ship. What do you mean it's not for your bags? What else would they be for but to make the things you carry lighter? As one, the humans glanced at each other, then at the ship's deck. Just then the engines fully engaged and the small lights went out on the grav harnesses. Shit! Was all the humans managed to say before the plating beneath them squealed, groaned, and then gave way completely, tearing through a meter of plating, wires, and hull as they fell back to the planet's surface. Alarms sounded throughout the ship as it detected the massive hull breach and the engines powered down. Approaching the new hull, Clixor was extremely grateful the bulkheads were closed, as the planet's atmosphere would have flooded the ship and killed anyone not in a suit. Looking down at the tangled pile of limbs on the surface, Clixor was hopeful. There didn't appear to be any injuries. Now the engines were off. He could see the grav harnesses were functioning again. Suddenly he realized if the gravity tech was for the items the humans could carry, it would be on their bags. The humans really were strong enough to lift a house, but that strength came at a price: muscle density. The grav harnesses didn't make them stronger. They made them lighter. Light enough that their steps didn't tear through deck plate that had never experienced the weight of the creatures known as humans. That's why humans weren't meant to be on old generation insectoid ships. And he'd gone ahead and done it anyway. I'm in serious trouble, Clixor said. He fell quiet, recalling the terror he had experienced, watching the humans tumble through the ship. Private? What happened next? The captain inquired, his frustration with his subordinate somewhat lessened, after hearing the true account of the incident. Misguided as it was, he had only attempted to assist the humans. Nothing, sir. Nothing? Captain Hung repeated. A massive hole gets ripped in the transport and nothing occurred? Clixor gulped. There was nothing we could do, sir. The enviro suits were in the cargo hold, and those inside the ship were already in decontamination. The rest of the crew couldn't enter the hold due to the breach. Also, when the humans fell, they damaged the systems to operate the external doors. I couldn't even exit to help. The external doors were non-functional? What about the backup systems? It was a substantial hole, sir. It disabled the backups too. After the accident, all we could do was notify both command ships and wait for rescue, Clixor said meekly, as Captain Hung was pondering new protocols regarding enviro suit storage and additional airlocks to prevent this from happening again. His door chimed. Pressing the intercom button, he snapped. This had better be crucial. I gave orders not to be interrupted while I debriefed Private Clicks here. My apologies, Captain, said the voice on the other end. But two humans are approaching in a shuttle. They wish to discuss the incident on the planet and are requesting permission to board. What? Permission granted. Escort them to my office immediately. Yes, Captain, came the response. Was worried. Given what Clixor mentioned about delays, the humans should have taken more time to get their crew aboard and treated. Had they been deceased when the humans arrived? His private said they had seemed fine when last he saw them. As if the private heard his thoughts, Clixor suddenly spoke up. Should I go, sir? The captain sighed. No, you must remain. There was no ill intent in your actions. Though misguided, you were only trying to help. That being said, your actions may have resulted in the injury or death of humans, and that cannot be overlooked. You will stay, and when the humans arrive, you will accept any punishment they decide. Sir, please, The door buzzed once more. This time the tone indicated the individual was on the other side, rather than simply using the intercom system. Straightening up, he invited them to enter. As the two humans walked in, his thoughts turned to Clixor. It must have been an accident, surely, but if the humans demanded it, the private would be sacrificed to maintain peace. Captain Hung, the first human began with a slight smile, seemingly making an effort to attempt the proper insectoid pronunciation of his name. Thank you for taking the time to meet with us to discuss the incident on the surface. Of course, replied the captain, noting in particular the word incident the human had used. The humans viewed this as an incident. Hope stirred that this could be resolved without bloodshed as he motioned to some insectoid chairs opposite his desk. Clixor had moved against the wall in preparation for the humans' arrival. The humans nodded in thanks as they took their seats. Though he concealed it, it still unnerved him how they sat, first bending at the waist, then knees. Their bipedal nature had deeply puzzled the insectoids initially. Being quadrupeds themselves, they considered this method of movement as highly unstable. The first time they had witnessed human sports, however, they grasped how much this bipedal nature was an advantage. The speed and agility they possessed, it was astounding. Sprinting at incredible speeds, the humans could swiftly change directions repeatedly with almost no loss of momentum. The humans were equally surprised by his species' appearance. Recalling the first contact between their species, the leaders of both peoples decided to record the initial face-to-face interaction, both to show others of their kind in the future and to capture the first reaction. As they approached, one human blurted out without thinking. It's the bloody Rachnos. His tone startled the insectoids, but before any being on either side could do more than widen their eyes, another human replied, Don't be silly, Carter. The Rachnos were arachnids. These folks are clearly insectoids. Thus we uncovered the human mythical being, the centaur, and our species' apparent resemblance to it, though the coloration differed and our legs were more slender. Our heads also bore similarity to an insect species on their world. Hence our name in the human tongue, ant-kin, later abbreviated to a single word. As the humans lowered themselves into the chairs, the seats groaned and bent alarmingly. Exchanging glances, they adjusted the device on their belts, modifying their weight. The gravity harnesses of the humans. The insectoids weren't entirely certain of this technology's origin. They certainly lacked it when they first encountered humans. His people possessed gravity manipulation technology, of course. It was one of the initial technologies they shared with humans. But insectoid gravtech was massive compared to the humans. Used to aid in the launch and descent of their vessels, the generators were room-sized. Perhaps that's why the humans wished to view it, an antiquated relic of laughable proportions compared to the humans' compact gravtech. Some among his people advocated inquiring about its source and function, but more voices still cautioned against it. The insectoids were meant to be the more advanced species, and it wouldn't do to display weakness. Once settled, the lead human addressed Captain Hung. I am Commander Blackwell, Captain. My associate is Dr. Olivia Chen. Pleased to meet you, Captain, said Hannah with a smile. Likewise. This is it, thought the captain. Motioning to Clixor, he said, This is Private Clixor. He is the one accountable for what transpired. As the humans turned to Clixor, he stood, solemn as if awaiting his own sentence. I am deeply sorry, Commander, Clixor began. I should never have endangered the safety of your people. I can only implore your forgiveness and offer myself for whatever punishment you deem fitting. Captain Hung felt pride. Clixor was clearly frightened, yet he still confronted the humans. He was prepared to place his fate in the humans' hands willingly. If the humans exacted vengeance by killing him, he would honor the private. It was a consequence of his own making, surely, but he faced it with dignity and courage. The humans blinked. Punishment? They echoed. What do you mean by punishment? It was clearly an accident. No one was seriously injured. We're not here for any punishment. The captain was taken aback. Then why did you come aboard? And why bring a doctor if not to oversee any punishment given? Now it was the commander's turn to be surprised. We came to apologize, Captain. According to our reports, we caused considerable damage to your ship as they fell. We came to apologize and offer our help in repairing it. Yes, Captain, Hannah chimed in. And I'm not a medical doctor. I'm a scientist. I was sent to inquire if you had any insight into what happened with the gravity harnesses and the interference that seemingly reversed its effects. Also to ask if we may study this interference your private mentioned. I don't understand, Doctor, said Hung. How would we know about your technology? Well, it originated from yours. Pardon? Our gravity technology, the woman explained. It all stemmed from your people. The captain blinked. Wait, what? Part 3 of humans are dense. Part 1 here. Part 4 here. What? Captain Hung repeated. What do you mean it's insectoids technology? Our gravity tech is much larger than that. There's never been anything that small. The translator must be malfunctioning. Really? Asked Dr. Hannah. Once we grasped the basic principle of your technology, it was surprisingly straightforward. After we disassembled the generator, you traded us and found the giant rock inside. That honestly caught us off guard. The doctor put her hand to her face and shook her head, a gesture of embarrassment among their people. We scanned that thing for hours trying to figure out what was inside that made it work. All our instruments said there was nothing. Then we finally realized it was the stone itself. Are you referring to float rocks? Asked Clixor, seemingly excited after realizing he wouldn't be executed. Float rocks? The doctor repeated. Yeah, float rocks, said Clixor, apparently unaware of the humans' blank stares. If you feed power into them, they become lighter and lighter. If you feed enough power into them, they float. Are you suggesting these stones are a natural occurrence on your world? Indeed they are. Well, not entirely natural. We believe a meteorite struck our planet before our species began evolving. The bulk of float rocks are concentrated in one region, with smaller deposits found only in the surrounding area. That does seem to make sense, agreed Hannah. But if it's a natural phenomenon, how did you discover that electrifying a rock makes it float? Lightning, Clixor replied enthusiastically. Our ancient texts spoke of gods striking the ground, causing it to jump in agony. Later, we uncovered the true cause. After that, we developed a method to utilize them to our benefit. Hannah was about to ask another question, but Commander Blackwell beat her to it. Gods? I wasn't aware insectoids were religious. In all our discussions with your species, you never mentioned having a belief system. The captain, inwardly cringing, responded. We once did, he began. We used to believe in entities in the sky, the earth, the sea. Beings that would protect us, guide us on the right path, and chastise us if we disobeyed. That was millennia ago, though. Then why still mention them? Some among us still adhere to the teachings, not because they believe in the gods, but because they feel it is the proper way to live their lives, even without the threat of punishment. We have comparable situations on our planet, the commander replied. We learned long ago that you simply can't alter some minds. People will believe what they wish to. As long as that belief doesn't instruct them to harm others, we think people can believe as they choose. Regarding the second part of what you said, I concur as well. Among our people, those who don't believe in any type of deity are called atheists. Someone once remarked, I trust a kind atheist more than a kind religious person, implying that a religious individual might only help out of fear of punishment, while if an atheist helps, it's because they believe it's the right thing to do. That's an interesting sentiment, Commander, remarked the captain. What did you mean by type of God? Do your people have multiple deities? As the commander began to respond, Hannah interjected swiftly. No, absolutely not. We're not going to delve into a debate about gods. Even if we only aim to give a basic overview of our planet's different belief systems, we'd be here for days. That can wait until we're done here. Turning back to Clixor and deliberately changing the subject, she inquired, if the lightning caused seismic issues, how were your people able to construct infrastructure? Clixor, never one for the belief, was grateful for the change in topic. Well, we generally avoid building near those areas. As our technology advanced, we became capable of redirecting lightning away from developed regions anyway. Plus, lightning is actually uncommon on our planet due to our relatively thin atmosphere compared to yours. The main concern arises when float rocks are naturally found near power crystals. Power crystals? The doctor asked almost immediately. Yes, the crystals we use for power storage. When they come into contact with float rocks, they retain the lightning's energy, causing the rocks to float for days. It can be quite alarming to turn around and see a massive boulder slowly drifting on the wind towards you. What are the capabilities of these power crystals? Hannah asked eagerly. How much power can they store? How do they behave when they're at capacity? How do you extract the power from them after charging? Captain Hung suddenly realized that humans lacked float rocks and power crystals on their planet. As Clixor began to answer, he quickly interjected, Clixor, cease talking. As everyone turned to him, he continued, I apologize, but I was unaware that you didn't possess these minerals on your planet. Power crystals are utilized in technology we haven't yet shared with your people. I'm not authorized to reveal details of insectoid technology without the Council's approval. Please forgive me. He anticipated the humans might object, perhaps even become confrontational, and was once again taken aback by their response. Of course, we understand, said Commander Blackwell. We would certainly be interested in these power crystals you mentioned. However, please inform your council that we'd like to negotiate for them and any related basic technology. That I can do, Commander, but I can't guarantee they'll agree. All we can ask is for you to relay the message, Captain, the doctor said. What about the original reason we came, the gravity belts and this interference we discussed? I believe that falls within the scope of the initial engine trade. Pressing a button, a runner entered the room. Sir? Private, is the transport that was damaged earlier today still undergoing repairs and refit in Workroom 6? Yes, sir. The engineers said it'll take at least a few more days to finish. Days? Are there issues I'm unaware of? No, sir, but they thought while it was in, they'd do a complete overhaul. I believe the exact phrase they used was, about time this one was damaged enough that they sent it to us, the private recounted with a slight smile. I see, the captain replied, maintaining a neutral expression. Well, can you take these two humans to see the engineers? Tell them they have permission to discuss any information regarding the gravity engines as they see fit. Afterwards, wait for them to finish and escort them back to their shuttle. Yes, sir. Turning to the humans, he said, please follow me. Wait, said the commander. Turning to Clixor, he asked, are you new to the service? Yes, sir. This is my first posting. I could tell. I understand you were just trying to help, but you need to realize that orders are given for a reason, even if you don't comprehend them. Yes, sir, I understand. Trust me, I'll never disobey any order ever again. No! The sudden stern look in the commander's eyes alarmed Clixor, though it softened after a moment. Obeying orders is one thing. Blindly following them is entirely different. Nearly every human government's military has a specific rule about this. If a soldier genuinely believes an order is morally wrong, they are allowed to refuse it. The captain was taken aback by this. His species had no such regulation. A superior's command was absolute regardless of circumstances. The commander grinned. Let's just consider this a learning experience and speak no more of it, Private Clixor. Thank you, sir, Clixor replied. Nodding at the captain, the commander turned to follow the messenger. Commander, the captain inquired. Yes? Would it truly require days to explain all the various faiths of your people? Smiling, the commander answered, the major ones, yes. Every religion that has ever existed would take far, far longer. At last tally, there have been over 4,000 distinct religions in my planet's history. And he turned to follow the doctor out of the chamber. It took a few moments for the captain to process that. 4,000? The conflicts one religion had initiated on his world were the stuff of terrors. Mentally composing himself, he addressed Clixor. Private, your action in disobeying an order is a serious violation. However, as the humans have pardoned you, we cannot discipline you without appearing to disregard the humans' mercy. You may return to your unit, but any further infractions will be dealt with severely. Yes, sir. Dismissed. As he walked out, he paused, seemingly deep in thought. Private, do you have something to add? It's just 4,000. Anticipating it, Captain Hung nodded. Yes, it surprised me as well. They are remarkably peaceful for so many religions, Clixor said, then with a breath continued out of the room. As Private Clixor exited the room, the captain had to concur with him. To have so many diverse religions and still be so peaceful was an incredible feat. He didn't think he'd ever witnessed a human raise a fist, or even their voice in anger. Turning to his personal communications array, he activated his office privacy shield. All it really did was disable the intercom system and secure the door, but the council insisted on privacy. His subordinates could still get his attention by physically knocking on the door. But such a situation had better be life or death. The council communication was text-based only at this range, though a service to read it aloud existed. He had always found it quicker to read and type his response. Connection established. Please enter command codes. Captain Hyung, Captain of the Command Carrier Shadowclaw. Code 04052063. Code confirmed, Captain. Report. Hyung leaned back. How would he describe the events of the past couple hours? Report, Captain. Apologies, sir. Approximately 2 hours ago, an incident occurred on the surface of the planet, targeted for resource extraction as the final transport prepared for return. Injuries? None serious, sir. On either side. Explain incident. The captain provided a detailed yet concise description of everything that had transpired, leading up to Clixor's accidental disclosure. There, however, he paused. Continue, Captain. The humans then became aware of power crystals. Hung was somewhat uneasy about how long the reply was taking, but knew better than to prompt them, as he had before. Explain. It was my fault, sir. I incorrectly assumed the humans had power crystals on their planet and spoke without thinking. Are the humans aware how power crystals are connected to our power and communications technology? No, sir. I stopped the moment I realized. Very well. But mind your mandibles in the future, Captain. That was perilously close to treason. Yes, sir. Is that everything? Almost, sir. The humans are currently conversing with engineers repairing the transport ship. They have instructions not to discuss anything but the gravity technology the humans already possess. Are those the same engineers that informed us that float rock-based gravity tech was a dead end? Not worth pursuing. Not them personally, sir. But yes, is that all? No, sir, there is one more item. Upon learning of our power crystals, the humans expressed a desire to trade for them, as well as any technology regarding them. They asked me to convey their wishes. Absolutely not. Under no circumstances are you allowed to give them power crystals or any technology about their use. We would have preferred they remain unaware of their existence altogether, but it's too late for that. Couldn't comprehend. The humans were supposedly the insectoids' allies. Sir, may I inquire why? The humans are our companions. I don't believe they would use this information against us. In fact, I recently discovered that they have had over 4,000 religions on their planet. The fact they have remained peaceful should certainly be in their favor. Just one religion nearly annihilated us. We are cognizant of the humans' various religions. You are? How? I have only just learned. The humans provided us files detailing the history of their species. It included, among other things, a history of some of their religions. When, sir, I have not been informed of this. It was withheld from the general public to prevent panic. Panic? Yes, panic. We are sending you the file. Any disclosure of its contents constitutes treason, and you will be summarily executed. See now, the horrors of your peaceful friends. Captain Hyung opened the file and began to read. Humans? Private? Why are there humans on the vessel? In a workshop, no less. Don't worry, Zilf. They are here with the captain's approval. Really? Well, that changes things. Hello, I am Engineer Zilf. Hannah took the lead this time. The commander may be the one to speak to a captain, but when it came to technology, she was in charge. Hello, I am Dr. Hannah Smith, she said with a smile. Gesturing to the commander, she continued, This is Commander Jameson. Nice to meet you both, Hannah, replied the engineer. Turning to the private, he asked, Are they authorized to discuss everything? No, the gravity assist and its mechanisms only. No power, no communications. Gravity drive only. Very well. How may I assist? Well, it's to do with the large hole you're currently repairing. Ah, yes, I heard your people took a bit of a tumble. Are they all right? Yes, a little bruised perhaps, but humans are pretty resilient. You'd need to be to survive that. I've heard that humans are on the heavy side. That's why you need those gravity belts of yours to be on our ships. Well, that's not entirely accurate. If we were cautious, we'd be mostly fine. Perhaps some warped floor panels. But if we needed to move swiftly, we'd cause some damage. Yes, I noticed, said Zilf, glancing at the transport. Well, no, that one wasn't just us. Meaning? Hannah briefly explained the history of the human gravity belts. As a scientist himself, Zilf was intrigued by the humans' ingenuity. To see a technology that his people had considered nearly useless, then develop their own. Remarkable, he said. So what did you use to replicate float rocks? We used the rock from the gravity generator your people traded us, answered Hannah. I must say, we took a chance cutting a piece off. I mean, what if we damaged it? But it seems the float rocks are effective in small size as well as giant boulders. Are you saying that your belts contain a small float rock to function? Zilf said slowly, staring at the little glowing box on each human's waist. Yes. Are you insane? Shouted Zilf, almost jumping away from the humans, startling everyone in the room. What? Replied Hannah, puzzled. All of the research her people had done indicated gravity belts were safe. In 3 months of use, there hadn't been a single instance of them causing harm. There was the time some fool had turned his weight down and jumped off a cliff to float down. But that was his fault. I mean, what idiot leaps into a canyon without seeing the cactus at the bottom? The death field, cried the frightened engineer. The death field. Powered float rocks generate a death field that kills nearby creatures. Without proper protection, your body begins deteriorating, and you die shortly after. That sounds like radiation, the doctor mused. We did detect low levels of radiation during our tests. The injuries your people suffered, they were long-term, caused weakness, fatigue, a breakdown of cells. As Zilf nodded silently, the commander spoke. Doc, these things are radioactive? Should they be near, certain areas? I'd like to have children in the future. Relax, Commander. There's more than sufficient radiation shielding. Protection from the death field? In such compact packaging? Zilf said cautiously. Not our first time dealing with this. Hannah smiled. Noticing the blank expression on the engineer's face, she elaborated. Apologies. That's a human phrase. It means this isn't the first instance my people have encountered this issue. Our species discovered radiation many centuries back. We didn't initially grasp how hazardous it was without proper shielding. There were tales of individuals painting their teeth with radioactive substances for amusement due to its glow. They applied death field to their face, Zilf said, astonished. My species has a history of putting harmful substances on, and even within our bodies before recognizing the risks. The doctor sighed. But why continue using it if it's so hazardous to you? Fire is dangerous, Hannah shrugged. We still utilize that. When properly managed, even hazardous things can be beneficial. You just need comprehension. Speaking of comprehension, said the commander with a disinterested look, motioning towards the transport ship. Yes, certainly, Commander. The reason for our presence is that, for some reason, interference from your engines seemed to cause our gravity belts to reverse, apparently greatly increasing our weight, more than your ship's deck could withstand, I'm afraid. That's not feasible, said Zilf, still processing the revelation that humans had mastered death fields, or as they termed it, radiation. They view this radiation as simple to control as fire? There's a sizable hole in your transport that suggests otherwise, the commander pointed out. No, pardon me, I should clarify, said the engineer, composing himself. What I mean is our vessels use identical engines to this transport. If it were the engines, you'd be falling right now. Oh, said Hannah. Then if it's not the engines, what is it? Zilf, can you describe in detail what occurs to the transport, but not the larger ships, in the moments before takeoff? Or as much as you're permitted to share? Well, that's simple, began the engineer. The main difference between these older transports and newer models is the gravity assist. As the main engines ramp up, power is prepared to feed into the gravity drive for initial thrust. Once sufficient power is ready, the kill wave is triggered, and the energy is channeled into the float rock drive. Kill wave? Yes, it's a signal sent throughout the entire ship that deactivates all other gravity devices before liftoff. It's unwise to have multiple gravity fields operating simultaneously. Well, that must be it then, said Hannah. If the only distinction between ships is this kill wave, then that has to be the source of the interference. That would appear most probable. Might we obtain the signal for this wave? I don't see that this would be problematic. It is related to gravity drive technology after all. For what purpose? To conduct experiments, explained the doctor. It could be useful to increase our mass. If nothing else, we could develop defenses against it. I don't, however, think it would be prudent to perform these experiments on your vessel. On that we concur. Yes, I will arrange for your ship to receive data on our kill wave. Excellent, said the commander. Are we finished here? I'm getting hungry, and it's nearly dinner time. For now, yes, replied the doctor. I'm eager to experiment with this new wave and the possibilities it may present. Thank you for your assistance, Engineer Zilf. Of course, Dr. Smith. However, before you depart, I would very much like to inquire if you would be willing to share your knowledge regarding protection from the death field, the phenomenon you refer to as radiation. Yes, I would be more than willing to share this with you. However, having spoken to your captain earlier, it seems we may be exchanging some of your technology as well. I'm sure if you mention it to him, he would be able to request it be included in the negotiations. Certainly, agreed Zilf. Private, please escort our guests back to their shuttles. I don't comprehend, said Hung. Appalled by what he had read, he had to pause midway. You see now, came the automated reader, which he had to activate to still communicate as he read. How could they do that to their own world? Their own kind? These aren't the people I've been conversing with for the past 4 months. I can't believe they could do this. They provided this to us themselves. After reviewing this, the council decided to accept the humans' offer of help, but also never give them technology that could be used against us. Snapping out of the horrors in his mind, he was startled. Wait, are you saying you only gave them the float rocks because you thought they were harmless, so we're using the humans as laborers? It was deemed safe, and over the last 5 months it has yielded impressive results. The growth of our species in this time has been unparalleled. Soon the humans will be the ones who fear us. Sir, I don't think this is secure. What if the humans uncover our deception? If they can do this to their own kind, then what might they do to us? Scrolled through the files, trying to reconcile the atrocities with the humans he had encountered. Wait, he said, finally noticing something. The humans' last conflict was over 150 years ago? Is there missing information? No, came the reply. This is the complete data regarding their conflicts. They claim there have been no significant wars since then, but our members believe this is just an attempt to make themselves appear better. But what if it isn't? What if they truly overcame their aggressive nature? The humans I've met have been friendly, courteous, and peaceful. Recalled the commander's words to Clixor. Surely such a people couldn't be as hostile as these files suggested. Enough, came the reply. This matter will be discussed no further. The council makes the decisions and the drones carry them out. Captain Hung, you will not discuss this with anyone on board. You will follow the orders you have been given. You will not make the humans aware of the council's decisions, and above all, you will not give the humans insectoids technology without express permission of the council. Is that clear? Yes, sir, was the only response the captain could offer. It had been 2 days since Captain Hung conversed with the council. Even now, he felt uneasy about the orders he had received. You will not inform the humans of the council's decisions, And above all, you will not provide the humans with insectoid technology. It troubled him to mislead the humans. Even saying it wasn't his decision didn't ease his mind. Throughout his life, he had been instructed to obey the council. Their word was law, second only to the queen. This was how it had been for generations. Even questioning their rules was prohibited. So why did he believe they were so mistaken? Even if there wasn't the risk of human retaliation, he would still feel uncomfortable. The humans may have a violent history, to put it mildly, but they have only ever been courteous and accommodating. His door suddenly began humming. Pressing the intercom button, he spoke. "Yes." "Captain," began the voice, "we have received a message from the humans. They have requested your presence on their vessel." The captain's breathing quickened. It was unusual for the humans to request visits to their ships. All they needed was a face mask and their belts to survive on insectoid ships. Conversely, his species required a full envirosuit to do the same aboard the human vessels. For what purpose? They didn't specify, Captain. They said, we want it to be a surprise. A surprise? That's what they stated, sir. How should I respond? Paused. Had the humans discovered? Why would they want the captain to come aboard? What is this surprise? If they were still unaware, could he risk refusing them? They would want to know why he declined, undoubtedly. Captain? Inform them I would be honored. Prepare a shuttle. Captain, thank you for accepting my invitation, said Commander Jameson. I understand you might have more urgent matters, and I appreciate you taking the time to visit. Think nothing of it, Commander, replied Hing. Though I must confess to being puzzled about the reason. What is this surprise you mentioned? I'm not sure, replied the commander with a wide grin. Dr. Smith requested your presence. I simply passed it on. Apparently she's made a discovery and asked to speak with me to demonstrate. When I inquired what it was, she said it was a surprise, but asked me to invite you if you were free. The moment the commander had said, made a discovery, he had halted in his tracks. This was it. Was he to be a captive? He couldn't fathom why they had asked him aboard. Were they planning to destroy his vessel and keep him for questioning? His thoughts drifted to the atrocities this species had inflicted on their own kind. The commander, a few paces ahead, finally noticed the captain had stopped. Misinterpreting the distress on his face, he tried to reassure him. Don't worry, Captain. The doctor might create the occasional dangerous thing, but I can assure you, you'll be safe. Regardless of her enthusiasm, there's no way she would endanger you. We value our relationship with your people far too much to jeopardize that. Suddenly, the captain's expression shifted to remorse. No, I'm certain the doctor can keep us safe. It's just that our people aren't natural risk-takers. Life is full of risk, Captain. How do people advance if they don't take risks? If my ancestors hadn't taken risks, my species might never have reached the stars. Yes, but risks also have the potential to cause destruction. The commander nodded. That's what makes it a risk. But if you never take risks, nothing will ever change. Risks are risky for a reason, he said with a laugh. Arriving at a door, it opened to reveal Dr. Smith, examining a gravity belt on a table. At the sound of the door, she briefly glanced up, then looked again to fully register what she was seeing. Hello. Captain Commander, please come in. I thought I asked to meet at 3? It is 3, Hannah. Are you all right? When did you last sleep? While he wasn't an expert on humans, he had to agree that the doctor looked considerably worse than she did when he saw her 2 days ago. Her eyes were dark, and she seemed a bit jittery in her movements. I had a couple of hours after our meeting with the captain. Then I finally received the transmission from the insectoid's engineer about what he referred to as the kill wave. That was 2 days ago, Hannah. Haven't you slept in 2 days? Well, I might have taken a nap, but once I figured it out, I couldn't stop. Plus, I had some coffee. Hings was puzzled, momentarily forgetting his unease. Your species can go multiple days without rest? What is coffee? The commander exhaled. Coffee is a stimulant my species uses, often in large quantities. I'm not sure if it would be safe for your kind, but we can check later. As for the other matter, he looked directly at the doctor as he spoke. While humans can function without sleep for extended periods, it is definitely not recommended. Hannah, after this demonstration, whatever it is, you are to go rest. That's an order. Bristling, Dr. Smith replied. I'm a civilian commander. You couldn't order me to cross the street. You're right, I couldn't, said the commander. But, he continued, the medical team can. All I need to do is send them here, and they would inform your department that you are on mandated rest. Please, Hannah, I'm sure whatever you were doing was important, but if you called us here, then you're finished. After you've shown us, please, rest. Again, the human's duality surprised him. To see the commander both frustrated with the doctor, but only because she was harming herself. So, Hing said, you were able to protect your gravity belts against the kill wave. What? Hannah blinked. Defending against that was straightforward. It was just an AM radio frequency. It disrupted the float rocks. I'm assuming your power crystals you mentioned were similarly affected, which is why the effect was to power down nearby gravity fields. Our power systems aren't affected in the same way. So when the float rocks were disrupted but the power kept flowing, the gravity field reversed. AM? We haven't used that technology in ages, said Commander Jameson. Well, if it was just a radio frequency, how did you fix it? A Faraday cage? Yes, we simply altered the casing of the units to create a Faraday cage around it. Seeing the puzzled look on the captain's face, she elaborated. What you refer to as the kill wave, we call AM radio waves. AM radio was a technology my people utilized for communication and information distribution. A Faraday cage is a container of metal or metal mesh that can block these waves. Touching the gravity device at her waist, she went on. What I did was modify the exterior of this to shield against the kill wave you employ. You needn't worry about your technology interfering with ours anymore. The captain was amazed. You were able to figure that out in just 2 days. That's remarkable. No, I was able to do that almost immediately. My people mastered radio long ago. For the past 2 days, was it? I was working on this. Hannah gestured at her gravity belt she had been adjusting. Examining it, Hing noticed it appeared slightly larger than the standard devices they used, but observed no other difference. That just looks like a regular belt, Doctor, said the commander, voicing what Hing was just thinking. A bit bigger, perhaps. I'm guessing the shielding. Partially, admitted the doctor, but after identifying the cause of the interference, I experimented with various frequencies and strengths of the signal. After 2 days, we now have this. Hannah fastened the belt and pressed some additional buttons. Watch. Suddenly, the doctor sprinted at the wall of the room, then she leapt at the wall with a flip landing. Feet first, then unexpectedly, she adhered there. Standing on the wall as if it was the floor, she jumped. Not jumped back to the ground, just jumped in the air, landing back on the wall. It was then Hunge realized that her hair was now hanging towards the wall as well. For all intents and purposes, the wall was the ground for Hannah. Hannah looked at them triumphantly. I've been practicing that. It's not strictly necessary, but the transition is uncomfortable if you have a foot on the wall and floor simultaneously. That's cool, remarked Commander Jameson. Hung had heard humans use that phrase before to describe a rock formation they had found intriguing. He felt that a fundamental shift in gravity's direction was more fascinating than some stones in a pile. He observed in awe as Dr. Smith continued her journey along the wall, as if it were nothing more than a walk along the floor, which he realized was precisely how it must feel to her. The frequency determines the direction, and the strength dictates the force of pull. We're fortunate your kill wave was down, Captain. Otherwise, we might have suddenly shot through the wall or even the ceiling. So what's telling it what down is now? Inquired the commander. Hunge was impressed with the human's ability to grasp the concept and make informed questions. He was still amazed that it happened. The commander continued. When you jumped just now, you went from floor to wall without touching the belt. So what changed? There are sensors on my ankles connected to a microcontroller. When my feet get close to a surface, the controller tells the belt that that is down now. That is truly remarkable, Doctor, said Captain Hung. The fact you were able to develop such a device is astonishing. Even more so that you did it within 2 days of discovering the issue. What do you think such a device would be used for? Hannah, finally returning to the same ground as them, flashed an odd look. Used for everything. We can use it to walk on the sides of buildings, for construction, for life-saving purposes. We can forego our mag boots when walking on the sides of ships. It will fundamentally change how we travel. If we can cover an entire vessel in a gravity field, we won't need engines anymore. We could literally fall towards our destination. Without air resistance, we would keep accelerating faster and faster for almost no power usage. Your people never cease to amaze me. Hannah looked at the captain. Would you like to try it? Try? The belt? Will it work on me? I have more legs than you. Indeed, I designed it with your species in mind, though it was challenging to create for quadrupeds without being one myself. My people will certainly benefit from this as well, but we are allies. We wouldn't even consider not sharing this with you. The captain suddenly found it hard to meet the human's gaze. Here were his people doing their utmost to use humans as little more than laborers, and then they go and create something his people couldn't even conceive of, and find the notion of keeping it to themselves absurd. Perhaps later, Doctor. I'm certain our engineers would want to be present for any testing. Very well. What about the council? Were you able to discuss with them the power crystal technology you possess? I'm confident we could assist in refining the tech. Of that, Hing thought, he had little doubt. He was starting to realize that humans were more clever than he'd assumed. At the same time, he recalled what he had read about their history. Commander, why did you opt to collaborate with the insectoids? Humans. I mean, not you, specifically. The commander's eyes widened at the abruptness of the question. Well, your species was the first we encountered. Of course we would ally with you. Humans have learned that the best way to advance is to unite. Your people have aided us greatly. Even this new technology would not have been feasible without your assistance. Again, Hung felt remorse. Just that? We were first. It's not quite that straightforward, Captain, said Hannah. Humans have a violent history. I'm sure you've read the historical information we sent your people. We realized that unless we made peace, our species was doomed. It was a challenging process, but we persevered. Our people haven't experienced a major conflict in over a century. When we met your species, our initial impulse was to ally with you, because we understand how costly conflict can be. Pondered her words. Turning to the commander again. Commander, do you recall what you told Private Clixor about following orders? Yes, of course. How do you determine if an order is unjust? How can you discern if it's worth disobeying orders? The commander let out a sigh. That's a challenging question, Captain. There are orders that are clearly wrong, like orders to harm innocents. But sometimes it's more nuanced than that. Ultimately, it comes down to what you feel. Finally reaching a decision, Hung took a deep breath. There is something you should know, and I believe it's crucial for the continued alliance of our peoples. What is it? The truth behind the Council's decision regarding our alliance. He couldn't turn back now, so he continued speaking, outlining what he had been told. That humans were viewed as a potential threat, and the belief was that they had lied about or concealed the last 150 years of history. The humans, for their part, remained quiet, listening. I see, was all Commander Jameson said. Have I just condemned my people? Asked Captain Hung, gravely. Condemned? Asked Hannah. Yes, Doctor. If you wished, you could destroy my ship. From there, you could go to my world for vengeance. You really don't understand humans, Captain, said the doctor. We wouldn't attack over something this minor. We can't, however, pretend that we haven't been told this. I can't tell you what will happen now. We'll have to inform our leaders. One thing I can assure you is there will be no violent retaliation. Your people are safe. You wouldn't attack us, even after our deception? It might mean the end of our alliance. But no, we won't destroy your people. As a human, I can promise that. The end of our alliance might mean the end of my people. This time it was the commander who spoke. What does that mean? The captain began to speak, but then shook his head. I've committed enough treason today. If you'll allow it, I need to return to my ship. The commander rose to his feet immediately. Of course, Captain. You're not a prisoner here. I'll escort you to your shuttle. As they left, Jameson turned back to Dr. Smith. This doesn't change things for you. Please, get some rest. As the two arrived at the shuttle, Captain Hung turned to the commander. When my replacement makes contact, you may want to make it clear that your leaders wish to speak with mine first. Replacement? Commander Blackwell, I was strictly ordered not to tell you what I just did. What I did was treason, and whatever happens next, I will be executed for my actions today." "No, that simply won't do," said the commander. "Please allow my people to make contact with your ambassadors before you tell them what you have done." "Very well, but I'm not certain how much they'll be able to do. I knew what I was doing when I disobeyed orders, and will accept the punishment allotted to me." "Good luck, Commander," said Hung as the shuttle doors closed.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.